There's so many curse techniques to choose from, I just want them all. But I can only pick 5. Before we hop into this ranking of the top 5 curse techniques from Jujutsu Kaisen, please drop your own list in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got the pencil here, and here we are to rank the top 5 curse techniques from Jujutsu Kaisen. There are a lot of really good ones, there are a lot of ones I want to discuss. A lot of them are exclusive to the manga right now, which is kind of annoying, but I do plan to talk about them in the future once they ever get animated. But up until now, there are 5 curse techniques in the anime, which I would greatly appreciate, and I also happen to like a lot. Let's rank this top 5. Let's hop into it with number 5. So Disaster Plants is some heat. It's some flames. I know it's not, that's Disaster Flames, but the reason I like Disaster Plants so much is because of the sheer diversity and creativity you can have with that ability. Specifically because you're creating plants from nothing, and that means you can create the plants into anything at whatever speed you desire, however you desire. Like, one of my favorite moments from the fight with Hanami against both Itadori and Todo is the moment where they all get burst into the air on this massive tree of plants, but due to it being cursed energy, the moment they go into lunge in and capitalize on their opening, Hanami just poof, makes it disappear. And then it's like it never happened. And then they're forced to fall into midair and they need a fight. And also, it's just, in terms of all the unregistered special grade curses that we've seen so far, I think Hanami's one is so, like, diverse in its utility. Like, you can send out a bud that reduces cursed energy and transforms a person into a plant the more cursed energy they use to try and fight it. Really good. You have the ability to just create entire mountains of plants, make them disappear, manipulate them whatever way you want. It's very good. You have the ability that in case you ever run low on cursed energy, you can really just absorb it from plants around you. Well, absorb their life energy and then convert it into cursed energy. So while you will be destroying the environment, you will be improving your longevity. It's a lot of good stuff that keeps stacking on top of each other to make it a really solid ability. Like, there's not necessarily a downside to having it. Like, other downsides for other abilities are like so on and so forth. Like, Disaster Flames, you're not going to be able to use that in a general area, but considering you can just spawn plants for whatever reason and whatever needs you need them for, that's really good, especially if you need a specific plant for something, because I'm assuming Hanami can grow whichever ones they desire, so there's no reason or limitation to not just be like, bam, poison ivy, bam, thorns, bam. Like, Disaster Flames is inherently more destructive, especially just as in general, it's fire, obviously, but in terms of sheer creativity and utility, I feel like Hanami does way better with Disaster Plants than Jogo does with Disaster Flames, and this may just because Jogo fought Gojo, and that's an unfair fight, but it was cool to see Hanami go off with their native ability, and I wish we got to see their domain expansion in the anime. I really wanted to see how it was done, but regardless of that, the world basically is your domain, because if you can just create mountains of plants whenever you want, even if you don't have the guaranteed hit, you're still gonna be hitting somebody with some plants. It's a really nice combination ability. Like, it stacks on top of itself very well, because you can easily build a wall, throw the bud that takes away their cursed energy while still trying to run them through with different plants. It's a lot of creative stuff, and I like how creative one can be with that technique. You can also just fly in midair by floating on a wooden ball. I don't know, it's really cool stuff. Like, you can do so many things. And especially, I like the cursed bud one so well because it actually doesn't transform you into a plant. It just feeds on you and keeps rooting itself deeper inside you the more cursed energy you use. And since a lot of Jujutsu sorcerers protect themselves and amp themselves with cursed energy, that means the more and more cursed energy they have, the more and more it'll just tear them apart from the inside. Hanami is a really good counterbalance to the common Jujutsu sorcerer. Sure, if you can't hit that Jujutsu sorcerer, Gojo, then you're in trouble still regardless. That's the main reason Hanami was just like, it's that time, I gotta go. And then he had to go though, but he had to go though because of Gojo, and I understand that, but in terms of just regular Jujutsu sorcerers, Hanami seems like a very solid counter, and I feel like he needed to fight who he needed to fight to even be stalled out for as long as he was. Really good stuff. I think it's fantastic. Honestly, I would take that ability, hands down. Like, what? Why not? Especially if I'm low on cursed energy and I'm just like, man, you got me, buddy. Hold on. Let me just touch the grass I love so much. Cursed energy refueled up, and now I'm fighting you again. I may not be able to heal myself because Hanami does maintain damage without the ability to consistently heal itself, despite it being a curse, weirdly enough. But even still, the defenses, the offenses, all around Disaster Plant is just, It's fantastic. I know it doesn't actually have a name. I'm just going by what the wiki calls it, because it's technically just called Hanami's curse technique. But disaster plants sounds way more cool. Way more cool. Is that grammatically correct? Whatever, moving on to number 4. Okay, so I know the Boogie Woogie technique in comparison to something like Disaster Flames or Disaster Plants or really any of the other techniques on this list, it really isn't that special. I completely understand that. However, Toto's usage of it in every single fight that Toto's ever been in is what makes me enjoy it so much. Mainly because of how simple it is, yet how insanely confusing it is. Like when you're fighting 2 people and one of them has the Boogie Woogie technique, good luck figuring out where you are, because you meet the threshold automatically. Because if Toto's fighting you, that means you gotta have at least some curse energy. And if you have some curse energy, that means you're getting swapped around. And the thing is, you would think clapping would be like a very difficult thing to do in the midst of a fight, but the way Toto has incorporated it into his moveset, as in like he's able to casually do it and then instantly lead into a punch, like it's cool. It's cool. That's the only reason it's this high. Like, really, there's so many other curse techniques that have already been revealed in the anime and already stuff that I've seen that technically should be higher than Boogie Woogie, but since Boogie Woogie is so simple, and since it's simple yet complex when you think about it, because one of my favorite moments is when Hanami sees the clap and is like, okay, they're about to switch, or I'm about to switch, or something's about to switch, I have no idea, and then Toto claps, and then nothing happens. And he still gets punched by Itadori. Like, that moment where he reveals that, oh yeah, just because I clap doesn't mean the technique's gonna activate. Like, come on now. Simple stuff here. 1 + 1 does equal 2. You know that, Hanami, right? But it's so cool how it's applied, because you really never know. Because that's all in Toto's head. Like, Toto on his own is running the mathematical calculations off the dome piece, like, okay, so if I switch with him here, that punch that he's about to throw shouldn't land, but I should be able to land a punch here, and then my brother Itadori should be able to land a punch there. Like, the moments where he's just clap, 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 yeah, like, it's a really cool technique for the fact that it seems so simple and mundane. Like, you wouldn't expect it to be effective especially against something as powerful as something like Disaster Plants. Like, what would this little quick swapping technique really do against a person who can just make a mountain of roots in an instant? But it allows you to counter that by simply manipulating the person, what they make, how you move, how your ally moves, everything. It allows an extra dimension to be added to a fight. Whenever anything teleportation related or position related is added to a fight, it makes a fight 10 times more interesting. So I would take the Boogie Woogie technique. The thing is, it wouldn't be very useful to me in the real world and in the Jujutsu Kaisen world, because I would have to be strong enough to actually use it. And I don't mean strong enough to actually use it as in like clapping, because I'm not sure if it takes a lot of curse energy. I feel like it probably should, because you're manipulating space-time, but like at the same time, I don't remember him mentioning it taking loads of curse energy, so maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But even if not, I would have to get as strong as Toto to actually hit someone and do some damage. And that's a lot of strength that I just don't have. The other abilities, they sort of come with free strength. I have to be as strong as Toto. But if I do become as strong as Toto and I get the Boogie Woogie, yes, I'm taking it. It's great. However, it's just not as great as the other abilities. Like, as cool as it is, that does put it above Disaster Plants, but it doesn't put it above the rest of the abilities on this list. Speaking of the rest of the abilities on this list, let's hop on to number 3. Alright, so I like the 10 Shadows so much, mainly because of the diversity of its application, and the fact that we haven't even seen all of it yet. Like, we don't know every last limitation of the 10 Shadows, we don't know all of them, we don't know how every single one of them works to their utmost limit, and the greatest thing about that is that it allows for so much flexibility between fights and for future storytelling. Because one, he can just introduce a completely new one out of nowhere, and we kind of just gotta hold that, but also it's gonna be interesting to see him introduce an entirely new one out of nowhere. It's gonna be great to see. Then on top of that, the ones we have already have really interesting combinations to them, like how he can combine Nue with the Max Elephant in order to crowd somebody down using 2 big bodies and just crush them in, how he used the Divine Dogs, how each one leaves remnants of itself after it's destroyed and then it becomes a part of another one. It's really good stuff where it just constantly brings new stuff to the table. Like, the 10 Shadows, since more can be summoned at once, I initially thought 1 could be summoned at a time and that was about it, but since at least 2 at this point, as far as I know, I think at least 2 can be summoned at once, that means that 2 completely different combinations can be brought together, and the limit is Megumi's imagination. Like, combining Nue with the Max Elephant, combining the Divine Dog with Nue, combining the... I can't spoil. Man, this is so... man, it just animate the rest so I don't have to worry about spoilers. But there are basically so many things that you can do with the 10 Shadows technique, especially the domain expansion. Like, I'm truly intrigued to see what the limit of that domain expansion is and what the limit of the technique itself is, because we already know Max Elephant takes a lot of cursed energy to summon. So what are the rest of them? How much is left? How dangerous are these remaining ones that he hasn't even gotten to yet? And when will he use them? Who will he use them against? They're gonna be such good things to see, and they're gonna be super interesting to watch. That's the thing. As great as the Boogie Woogie technique is, and as great as Disaster Plants is, what they don't inherently provide is like a sense of mystery to them, a sense of overwhelming mystery. Like, I sort of understand the limitations of both, like the multiple applications of both Disaster Plants and Boogie Woogie. Like, you can do some creative things with both of them, especially if you're thinking extremely outside the box, but it's nothing like the 10 Shadows technique, because the 10 Shadows technique isn't even completely known. We have already multiple different combinations and techniques that stack on top of each other and how they can be used together and separately. All this stuff is really, really cool, and then it just expands the mind. It broadens the mind. Like, I'm not just limited to what I see in the show or what my wild self can think of after some time. I'm also just wondering what's next. It has anticipation to it. It has wonder, mystique, mystery. I enjoy that in a technique where, yes, it's not entirely fully explained, but we get the basic concepts, and thus we can stretch our imaginations. We have concepts and patterns already, so we can try to figure out what comes next and where the power growth starts to like cap out, where it limits. There's so many interesting things about the technique that it gets up this high because of mainly the mystery. If it wasn't so mysterious, if like we knew everything and Megumi came pre-packaged with all 10 of them, and we knew all the limitations, applications, and stuff like that, then it may not rank as high. I don't know. I would really like it though, having 10 separate techniques that you can all summon on top of each other. Well, not all summon on top of each other, but at least 2 that you can summon on top of each other in the different combinations. I'd probably still like it a lot. It'd probably still be number 3, but it would be less interesting than it is right now. I'm super excited to figure out the rest of them, but enough about the 10 Shadows technique. Let's move on to number 2. Subscribe now. Bam, if I had the cursed speech technique, y'all would just be hitting the subscribe button right now. Come on now. You're telling me that wouldn't be cool? Like, here's the thing. Cursed speech is once again like the 10 Shadows technique, except we know everything it can do. We just want to know the limits of it. Like, think about if I had cursed speech and I just ran into a crowd of people and said, run in random directions. If they didn't have high enough cursed energy to counter me, would all these people separately obey? What if I went up to a cursed spirit and just said fade from existence? Like, I looked at Sukuna, right? Like, I pull up, I'm extremely powerful, I have ludicrous amounts of cursed energy at this point. Or no, what, say I just go to a Sukuna finger and I just order it, disappear from existence. And if not that, a weak Sukuna vessel, disappear from existence. What are you supposed to do? What's gonna happen? What if I just go up to a random person and yell evolve? Like, are they just gonna transform? Like, that's the thing. There's so much that we don't know about the cursed speech, despite knowing so much about the cursed speech. We know it takes a toll on the user. We know it affects their vocal cords. We know all that. We just don't know, what are the limits? How dangerous is this? Can I just run into the streets and yell, Boogie Woogie, and everyone's gonna start breaking it down? Like, what's the plan? Like, I don't know. I want to see more of cursed speech, but I understand why we aren't allowed to see more of it. Because just like another technique on this list, it's a bit too strong. That's why it has to be limited, because if it wasn't limited, we wouldn't have a narrative, basically. Because all Inumaki would have to do is stroll up to the big bad and just be like, die, and then suddenly they're dead. Like, what are you supposed to do? Obviously, there are ways to defend it. Like, literally just turn off your ears for a little bit, as Jujutsu sorcerers can apparently do. Just redirect your cursed energy to your ears, shut it down, and you won't have to listen to it. But if Inumaki sneaks up on you, like, you have no idea there's a cursed speech user in the area, and all you do is suddenly hear the command to die, and you're dead. Like, what? It's unfair. And obviously, the counterbalance is that the stronger your opponent is, the less effective the commands are, and the more toll they take on you. But if that's the case, just get someone with a whole ton of cursed energy, teach them the technique. I know it's inherited, so you probably wouldn't be able to teach them, but at least figure out a way. No, if you inherited the technique, train your cursed energy, get extremely powerful, and no one's going to be able to stop you. Especially if combined with something like the Boogie Woogie technique. Like, imagine if in the middle of the fight with Hanami, like, instead of Todo switching places with the cursed tool that was in the river, he senses Inumaki and is like, wait a minute, okay, bam, and then Inumaki pops up and yells, die, and then Hanami just, I know Inumaki, like, blew his throat out, so he couldn't have done that by that point. But in any situation, like, imagine all the ways Inumaki could just fix the narrative if he didn't have limits. And I know that's allowed every single technique. If the technique didn't have limits, then of course it break the narrative. But curse speech, it's just so cool. Like, I wouldn't want it. I would want it, but I'd want it in a sense where I could turn it on and off. I'd want to be able to toggle it, basically, because I do like talking. I wouldn't want to accidentally be like, yo, bro, that killed me, and then I die. Like, that would suck. Like, bro, imagine that. Like, you're just chilling in a casual conversation, your speech toggles on accidentally, and then you're just like, man, bro, you would kill me for that, and then you just instantly execute me. Like, that would suck. But if I could toggle it on and off, I'd want curse speech. Curse speech is a high risk, high reward. And, like, the risk isn't worth it most of the time. So I probably wouldn't take it if it had the same limitations of Inumaki himself. However, if there's other ways that I could use curse speech, like a toggle, like erasing the marks or something, or possibly even just having like a megaphone or something like that, then I would definitely have curse speech on, because it's just so free. But let's move on to number 1. Alright, so I was gonna be a hot taker and put curse speech at number 1, but it's Limitless. Y'all know it was Limitless. Like, y'all clicked on the list, y'all saw the thumbnail. Like, man, I wish I could be original, but not in this case. You wanna know why? Because Limitless it breaks reality. Like, we all joke about Gojo being in creative, but like, we aren't joking. Gojo is literally in creative mode. I know you need the 6 eyes to bring out Limitless's full potential, but even without it, no, I probably want the 6 eyes, because if I have the Gojo combo where basically nothing can touch me, I'm just sitting there vibing, and you're sitting there screaming because I'm vibing so hard that I activate purple and disintegrate you. Like, what do you want to do? Like, how are you supposed to, like, you literally have to have teleportation. You have to be able to skip the infinite distance between you and me by sensing me and then teleporting to me. That's the only way you're even touching me. Or I shut it down, or you have some other specific counter that hasn't been mentioned yet. Because, honestly, you literally just, you can't do anything to me, especially since I can just expand the barrier. I can just do whatever I want, really. I can sit there and be like, yeah, I don't want you here anymore, goodbye, and I just, boom, send you flying. Or I just teleport next to you. Like, I don't need to worry about you teleporting, you need to worry about me teleporting, because I can completely control space-time. What do you want from me? Like, Limitless, it's obvious. It's a free technique. Like, what reason would you not want to have it other than the fact that you'd be hunted down? Like, if you have Limitless, especially in combination with the 6 eyes, and in any circumstance where your opponent doesn't have a specific counter to you yourself and your ability, then you're just, it's a free fight. It's a free win. You're ignoring a cursed speech user because their cursed speech is blocked out by the energy that flows around you, preventing you to being touched. You completely ignore any Disaster Flames or Disaster Plants user because all their attacks will just never hit you. Boogie Woogie, I wonder if that works. Will Boogie Woogie be able to cross an infinite distance? If he can sense you. If you have, well, yeah, obviously you gotta have tremendous amounts of Curse energy. So I need to see if Boogie Woogie would like work on Gojo. Could he just clap and then? But I think the infinite domain would just like swap places. It'd probably follow Gojo because Gojo teleports himself anyway. So it probably wouldn't really matter that much. It's not like you still wouldn't be able to hit him. Like Boogie Woogie itself wouldn't remove him from the infinite void. It would just move the limitless void. So you'd still be in trouble, but it'd be an interesting interaction to see. 10 shadows? 10 what? What are you gonna do? Hit me? Oh wait, no, you can't. Darn, bro. Sucks to suck. Like, what actually are you supposed to do against a limitless user who actually can use it to its full potential? There's a reason Gojo's the strongest, because no one can really challenge Gojo on being the strongest since no one can really hit Gojo. Hitting Gojo is a no-no with the flow, and I just have to say that it's just free. It's free win. It's free win, but yes, I'm taking Limitless, because there are specific circumstances where I could be countered. Like, if you just skip the infinite void by either having like immeasurable speed and or just teleporting to me, then fine. I'm in some sort of trouble. But then I'm just teleporting away. Like, if my reaction times are decent enough, and you just don't have a counter technique to me, you lost. You lost, buddy, because I'm hitting you, but you're not hitting me. It's the law of equivalent exchange, just without the equivalent exchange part. It's the law. You aren't allowed to win if I have Limitless. Bada bing, bada boom. It's the #1 technique. I have nothing else. It's too good. It's too good. I'll take it. It's free. I'll buy it off of Amazon. Gojo, just let me just Uchiha you real quick. Pop out the 6 eyes. Give me a blood transfusion, and bada bing, bada boom. I'm the strongest cursed Jujutsu sorcerer ever. And that's it. But what do you guys think? What is your list of your top 5 curse techniques? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.